Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. The story begins on an island where a group of hunters face off against several giant monster ants. Their leader gets up close and personal with one as he explains that they must hold the monsters back at all costs and they cannot retreat. This group is quickly overwhelmed by the overgrown insects and their leader begins to lose consciousness. One of the ants is snacking on his insides and the leader's life begins to fade away. Just then, a man rescues him from becoming ant food and shocks the leader with his unbelievably powerful healing magic. The leader screams as this man is about to be attacked as well, but he is quickly saved, and the man that saved him calls on his teammate to follow up his attack. This next teammate is an absolute beast as he smacks around the monsters. The first group realizes that they were just side characters all along, and they are amazed as it becomes very clear that these guys that came to rescue them are S-rank hunters. These guys finish off the red ants, but an even bigger albino ant appears. The attackers decide to engage the leader while leaving the wounded to the healer. These powerful warriors initiate the fight and use incredible teamwork to rip off the thing's face arms. The powerful S-rank warrior then uses one of these face arms to absolutely destroy the giant pigmentless ant. There is no time to celebrate though as the albino army arrives. It turns out that the giant powerful ant was just one of many, but these hunters fear nothing. The mage powers up his lightning, and the brute goes into roid rage mode, causing his giant muscles to destroy his clothes. Their fight can be seen from the city, where another man is glad that they were able to make it in time. This guy's name is Mr. Choi, and he is busy as the city seems to have a serious ant problem as well. He lights them up with some serious flames, leaving only the colorless ones. There's nothing to worry about though, as he has his team of exterminators to fight them. We then learn that over 10 years ago, portals that could connect to a different dimension suddenly appeared in the world. All types of monsters come from the portal, and only people with awakened special abilities stood a chance at fighting them. These people are called hunters. Based on their magical powers, hunters are classified by rank ranging from S, which is the highest, to E, the lowest. However, the problem these hunters face is that once their powers are awakened, their abilities can no longer be developed no matter how hard they try. 3 years pass from the day of the ant infestation, and we find ourselves in a city. A large group is preparing for a raid mission, and a guy named Kim welcomes some dude with a mullet and sweet-looking mutton chop sideburns. The two guys catch up and hope to make a lot of money if their mission is successful. Finally, our protagonist arrives, and we learn that his name is Jin Woo. Everyone recognizes him, and they all say hello. Mutton Chop's name is Parks. He hasn't been around for a while because he's been watching too many AniCap videos, so he wonders why everyone is greeting Jinwoo, and questions if that means he is really strong. Kim explains that Jinwoo is actually infamous for the exact opposite reason. He just joined the group recently, but has already been given the nickname, the weakest hunter of all of mankind. It's a pretty lazy nickname if you ask me, but it's not an exaggeration. Jinwoo was even injured in an E-rank dungeon and hospitalized. Jinwoo being called there is a sign that this mission they're about to go on is an easy one. The guys try their best not to let Jinwoo hear their conversation, but Jinwoo heard it all, and he can't deny a single word of what they said. Just then, a girl named Juhee arrives, and she's upset to see that Jinwoo has been injured yet again. He was the only one injured during an E-rank mission, and the group didn't even have a healer, because they assumed the mission would be so easy that no one would get hurt. Juhee is mad at his team, but Jinwoo has already accepted the fact that he's just too weak. He has already gotten used to it, but there's no time to throw a pity party as the next mission is about to begin. A man named Song Chi introduces himself to the team and proposes that he be the captain for this mission. He is the highest ranked hunter among them, so they are all glad to have him be their leader. With that decided, the mission begins and everyone starts entering the gate. Kim tells Jinwoo to sit close to the group so he doesn't get injured, and Juhee enters the gate with everyone else. Before Jinwoo enters, he takes a look at his pitiful, sorry excuse for a weapon. A small blade with little magical power. Our boy spent all his money on worthless NFTs and barely gets any income, so that's all he can afford. Jinwoo is determined to do better this time and enters the gate. Elsewhere, president of the Hunters Association named Go just finished a meeting with the government where he was told that they need to avoid something called dungeon break. However, these same people demanded that they supply the goods acquired from the dungeon. Those in the association make a living by reselling goods acquired from the dungeon, so he doesn't have a problem with the request. The crystals obtained from defeating magic beasts are known as magic gems, and they are sold in exchange for money. Back with Jinwoo, we see that he has somehow managed to obtain a magic gem. Of course, he is excited to finally have gotten one, but he must quickly defend himself from a goblin. This thing is relentless, and Jinwoo's blade shatters to pieces when he attacks it. The goblin stabs our boy, and Juhi just stands around screaming. Luckily, the big guy from earlier runs past the useless girl and rescues our injured protagonist. Parks moves on to look for the next beast, leaving Juhi to heal Jinwoo. While she heals him, Jinwoo can only watch as the rest of the team does all the work. We then learn that magic gems obtained from high-rank magic beasts can be made into more powerful weapons to defeat stronger magic beasts. Mana crystals from the dungeon can also be weapons, but their effects are not nearly as good as those of the magic gems. The government wants to use these items as a new type of energy. It's safer and more efficient than all the other types of power, and it even causes less pollution. It's the ideal green energy, and the government is desperately researching how to generate electricity from the gems and crystals. These items can only come from the dungeon, so that makes the hunters extremely valuable. Back in the dungeon, the team celebrates after defeating the dungeon boss. Jinwoo really must be the weakest to ever exist, as he took a ton of damage, and Juhi is still healing him. She wonders why he chose to become a hunter in the first place, since he's always getting injured, and he will surely meet his end one day. Jinwoo apologizes, but his words mean nothing, and she is just worried about him. Everyone gets their spoils from the battle, but there weren't many mana crystals, and they likely won't make much money. Jinwoo wonders if it's really over, and ends up being a bit disappointed to have only gotten a small E-rank gem. Doubt begins to creep in, and he determines that it's not enough to be risking his life over. Just then, one of the guys finds a deep cave, and they wonder if they have entered some kind of double dungeon. This does make sense since they have defeated the boss, but the dungeon isn't closing. Everyone gets excited, but Songchi explains that in these situations, they are to report their finding to the Hunters Association and follow their instructions. The guys complain though and point out that this would mean they would be giving up a chance at finding valuables in an unexplored area. They also point out that it's only a D-rank dungeon, so it shouldn't be so dangerous. Kim then guilts the captain by pointing out that Mullet Man's wife is pregnant with their second child, so they need more money than the stuff they already found will provide. Songchi is concerned about the unknown dangers of the unexplored area, so they take a vote. The vote ends up being tied, with the last one to vote being Jinwoo. Everyone then just waits around, as Jinwoo thinks about how dangerous a D-rank dungeon is for him. However, his father is missing, and he's the only one in his family that can make money. His sister has to go to college so she doesn't end up stupid like him, and his mother has some serious hospital bills. Jinwoo needs money in a bad way, so he votes that they go. Back in the city, some dude is told to place his hand on a black crystal. Some research lady does something on her little computer and calls on the next person. It turns out that these people are being tested to see how strong they are and what rank they will receive. This place is also the best place to recruit newly ranked hunters, and one suit tells Mr. Choi that they have signed a B-rank hunter and 2 C-rank hunters to join them. Mr. Choi is glad to hear it and expresses how he wants anyone with talent recruited, regardless of age or gender. He is hoping to recruit all the best hunters, but he is sure that they already have one of the strongest in someone named Cha-hae. Elsewhere, some thieves steal a purse and prepare to run over a girl that's in their way. This girl fearlessly takes the purse from these guys, but doesn't even make a single expression, like it's just a normal day. This girl is Cha-hae, and everyone marvels at the famous S-rank hunter. She is practically a celebrity, but she can't handle all the attention. Her fans are amazed by her, and she takes off in the most over-the-top way possible. Back in the dungeon, Sanchi explains that the portal closes 1 hour after the boss is defeated, and they have already been walking through the cave for 40 minutes. Jinwoo apologizes to Juhi for forcing her to come along because of his vote, but she's more upset about how he doesn't worry more about his own life. If he had been stabbed even just a little bit higher, then he would not be alive. On top of that, she was barely able to heal his hands and feet. She just keeps scolding him, and he realizes that it's only because of the B-rank healer Juhi that he was able to survive. Jinwoo is very apologetic, so she explains that he can really apologize by treating her to a meal next time. Jinwoo is shocked by how forward she is being, but their little discussion is interrupted when the team finds the boss room. It's rare to find rooms with immense doors like this one, so something doesn't feel right. Kim refuses to go back empty-handed, so he is determined to enter, and the others join him. Back in the city, a group of hunters go through some kind of orientation as they watch a video of Go. He explains that the portal has existed for more than 10 years, and there are still many mysteries unsolved in the dungeon. Being a hunter is a dangerous profession, so even the most experienced ones cannot let their guard down during a raid mission. They cannot be arrogant, and there's one main key to surviving. That key is to be very cautious. Back in the dungeon, we see that this group of idiots have completely forgotten those words, and are entering the mysterious, dangerous, and completely unexplored room. These guys act super casual, like they're on some kind of field trip, as it's their first time seeing this type of dungeon. The statues seem to be at least a century old, and some are holding strange musical instruments. Jinwoo stares at the biggest one, and Juhee becomes uneasy with how eerily quiet it is in there. Everyone wonders where the boss is, and Songchi stares at what looks like a magic circle on the ground. His attention is called to a tablet with some ancient writing, and it has some commandments on it. It's all about worshipping some type of god, but Songchi is more concerned with something else. She is certain that she just saw the giant statue's eyes move, and it was looking right at them. Jinwoo thinks she's just losing her mind, but everyone is shocked when the door abruptly closes. One lady wonders if they are trapped, but some gym teacher looking guy shoves her out of the way. He knew going there was a mistake, and scolds them all for underestimating the dungeon. He tries to leave as he doesn't care about the treasures anymore, but the entire half of his body is instantly sliced off by one of the statues. Everyone is horrified, and they wonder if this statue is what they're supposed to be fighting. Jinwoo is the most shocked among them. The guy that just got wiped out in 1 second was a D-rank hunter. He was definitely stronger than an E-rank hunter like himself, so he knows that he has no chance against the statue. None of what's happening makes any sense to him, as this is supposed to be a D-rank dungeon. While everyone panics, Jinwoo comes to a terrifying realization. If that statue was able to move, then that might be true for the other statues. Jinwoo looks to the giant statue and is shocked when it looks right back at him. A look back into some of Jinwoo's history shows that he has been through many life and death situations. In his first mission, he was separated from his team and attacked. In another, he almost starved to death when trapped in a maze. He was also injured by an E-rank magic beast and hospitalized for weeks. Even the lowest ranked dungeons are life and death for him. Usually, hunters acquire gems, then use the money they get from them to buy stronger weapons. Those weapons are then used to defeat stronger beasts and get higher rewards. That isn't the case at all for Jinwoo though, as he has nothing more than a cheap little knife. If it ever gets damaged in a fight, then he has to fight barehanded. His clothes are worn down and his shoes have holes in them. He endures constant ridicule from others, and he does this dangerous job that doesn't even earn much. The only way he's able to survive is by looking for loopholes, and he does this by carefully observing everything around him. Back to the present, Jinwoo instantly senses the danger from the giant statue, but his warning to the others isn't fast enough. The giant unleashes a powerful beam from its eyes, causing massive destruction. The team is horrified and they can't believe what is happening. Juhee trembles in fear, and Jinwoo wonders how things ended up this way. They are trapped with no way out, and he's shocked to realize that he will be killed. Songchi instructs everyone to stay where they are, as the statue will surely attack again if they move. Juhee is too terrified to move, and Songchi disobeys his own orders to tell Jinwoo that he did a good job. If he hadn't noticed what was happening, then they would have all lost their lives. Songchi is a seriously tough guy, as Jinwoo is shocked to see that he is now one arm short. Jinwoo must stop the bleeding for him, as their healer Juhee is in the fetal position because she can't handle the pressure. She is actually a B-rank healer, but her cowardice makes it so she can only participate in easy raids. Songchi has taken part in many B-rank raids himself, so he can tell that this statue is an A-rank, or maybe even an S-rank. The tablet had things written about praising God or there would be consequences, so Jinwoo determines that this god it spoke of must be the statue. We then learn that 10 years ago, gates appeared all over the place and gave rise to a number of supernatural phenomena. An example of this are the people that awaken to special powers known as hunters. They are tasked with defeating the monsters in the dungeons, and a hunter's power, once active, never changes. At school, Jinwoo's sister tells some girl about how her brother's always getting hurt. This girl can't believe that Jinwoo is a hunter, and remarks that she would be a better hunter than him. Back in the dungeon, Songchi wants to think of a plan to get out, but some dude gets really impatient. He just signed a contract to join some famous guild, so he can't afford to die there. This guy is confident that with his insane speed, that he can get away. This guy really does have amazing speed as he takes off running, but the statue absolutely disintegrates him, leaving only his really fast feet behind. This makes it pretty clear that this statue could wipe them out in an instant if it wanted to, and it would be easy for it too. That begs the question, why doesn't it just do it? Jinwoo realizes that it must have something to do with the first commandment, which is to revere God. Jinwoo stands up as he has come up with an idea and gets a real determined look on his face. Songchi is concerned but is amazed to see that from the look in Jinwoo's eyes, he hasn't given up on surviving this ordeal. Jinwoo looks the statue right in its eyes, but manages to stop it from attacking at the very last moment. He has figured something out and tells everyone to bow their heads. Jinwoo assumes that revering God means that as long as they keep their head low, it won't attack. Everyone else is too dumb to think of another plan, so they all bow down to the statue. They are all terrified as they can't see much and wonder if this will really be enough. Everyone freaks out though when the statue makes a terrifying face. Mutton Chop Sideburns gets up against everyone's recommendation and he gets all excited because the statue isn't attacking anymore. Everyone follows his lead, but Jinwoo feels like there is more to this. Just then, the statue shockingly stands up. The team's supposed leader turns to Jinwoo now, as he hopes that he has some kind of plan. Unfortunately, Jinwoo doesn't, but he is certain that they can't break the commandments set by the tablet. The second commandment was to praise God, so one brave long-haired man steps forward to give something a try. He begins to pray to this thing, and everyone thinks it's working as the monster slows down. Jinwoo knows better though, and reveals that the guy's words don't apply to this god. The statue instantly stomps on this poor guy, and everyone freaks out. Absolute mayhem breaks out as some side character girl gets crushed, and everyone decides it would be best to spread out. Parks thinks about how he can't leave his family without a father, but he picks the wrong place to stay still, as another statue slices him in two. As Jinwoo runs with Juhei, he desperately tries to think of the meaning behind praising God. This monster is practically the devil, so he can't think of anything to praise about it. But what he does know is that he can't leave Juhei alone. As everyone loses their lives around them, Jinwoo frantically searches for clues. As he looks at everything the statues are holding, he comes up with an idea and tells everyone to go to the statues that are holding instruments. Everyone does just that, and it becomes clear that these statues don't attack. Instead, they play their instrument. The one Jinwoo arrives at doesn't play its music, so it becomes clear that it doesn't work with two people. After Jinwoo leaves Juhei, the statue plays music, and Jinwoo rushes to find his own statue. The giant statue nearly crushes him, but a scream points out that Jinwoo has landed in front of the wrong statue. This statue slams its shield right on top of him, causing Juhei to scream out to Jinwoo. Jinwoo is still alive, but in really bad shape. He is determined not to give up, but the giant prepares to end his life once and for all. Jinwoo refuses to die as the giant slams its foot down, but a statue begins to sing, and we see that Jinwoo made it to a statue just in time. He realizes that this is what it means to praise God, and the giant statue takes its seat. Jinwoo tells Juhei that he is fine, but she is stunned to see that his foot was ripped off. He tries to tell Juhei that he will be fine, but she refuses to listen. She is determined to heal him, but her body begins to fail. Everyone is stunned to see how horrifyingly terrible the raid has gone. One guy even tells Songchi that losing his arm was karma for leading them down this path as their leader. The others think that's a bit too harsh, but Songchi takes full responsibility. Jinwoo is way smarter than all these people though, as he knows that there's no time to be fighting since there is still one more commandment left. Just then, the giant raises an altar at the center of the room. Jinwoo knows them well from legends, where they are used for offering treasure and sacrifices to the gods. The third commandment was proving your faith to God. Kim assumes that the sacrifice must be someone's life, and he couldn't think of a better candidate than their leader. They have all had to witness the deaths of their team, and Songchi is the one responsible. Songchi decides to go to the altar, but Jinwoo points out that it isn't all his fault, since they voted to come down there. A fire appears as Songchi approaches the altar, and he asks Jinwoo if there's something else he needs to do. Jinwoo is not only the smartest of the bunch, he is also the bravest, as he asks the others to help him get to the altar so he can examine it. Jinwoo doesn't think anything bad will happen to them, so they take him and they find that more flames appear. Songchi keeps asking Jinwoo for answers, but he hasn't come up with anything yet. Songchi explains that the gate has been open for a week, so the statues will likely start moving again before anyone comes to rescue them. Jinwoo recalls how it takes 7 days for a gate to open all the way, and that is called a dungeon break. When that happens, the beasts are able to cross over to the other side. One of the main objectives of raids is to defeat the dungeon boss and shut the gate down before that time is up. This means that if they fail to defeat this boss now, then that terrifying giant will be able to enter their world. Back in their world, Gina goes to see Jinwoo's mother. She chats it up with her, but their mother is in really bad shape. In the dungeon, Jinwoo tells the cowards of the group to come towards the altar, since he predicts that they need a flame to light up for each person. Once they do, more flames appear, and the door opens right up. They fear that it might be a trap, and the other statues shockingly begin to start moving towards them. Everyone panics, but Jinwoo keeps his calm to analyze the situation. This absolute genius realizes something else and tells everyone to keep their eyes open, as the statues won't move if they are watching them. Everyone listens to his orders, and it surprisingly works. Everyone does their best to keep their eyes on the terrifying statues, but one woman succumbs to fear and tries to run for the door. The second she crosses the circle, her fire goes out, but she does manage to run out the door. Song-chi can't understand what's happening. The door clearly closed a bit, but the girl did seem to make it out. He thought they needed to stay in the circle, so of course he turns to Jinwoo for answers. Jinwoo is just as confused, but he once again analyzes everything. The blue flames have been dying out over time. One of the orange ones went out when someone escaped. The first order was to revere, the second was to praise, and the third is to prove their faith. Jinwoo is certain that the door must be a trap. This situation is causing danger and fear, and now offering a false sense of hope. This makes him wonder if it's testing their faith in this god. Jinwoo is tossed to the ground as the next idiot decides to make a run for it, and the same thing happens. His flame goes out, the door closes a bit, and he seems to escape. Kim has thoughts of leaving, but Jinwoo warns everyone not to move. If anyone else leaves, they won't have enough eyes to keep the statues from moving. He reminds everyone that as long as they keep their eyes on the statues and don't move, they will be safe. Jinwoo shows more of his deduction skills, as he has determined that the blue flames serve as a timer, and when they are all gone, they will be able to leave. Kim points out that there is also a chance that they will just get trapped when the timer runs out. He concedes that he didn't expect Jinwoo, who is their weakest member, to have pulled off as much as he has. The only reason they are alive now is because of him. However, Kim has a family waiting for him, and he doesn't want to die. He just wants to make it home and can't risk Jinwoo being wrong. Kim apologizes and runs out the door. With not enough eyes to keep watch of all the statues, they begin to move again. Jinwoo still refuses to lose his life here and reminds himself that he has managed to make it out of tough situations before. Things are clearly worse than ever though, and Song-chi shockingly tells Jinwoo and Joo-hae to leave. He predicts that the door will stay open as long as one person remains by the altar. The two of them have long lives to live, so he insists that they should be the ones to go. Song-chi wants Joo-hae to look after Jinwoo, but her legs give out on her. Things couldn't possibly get any worse, and Song-chi realizes that Joo-hae must have overexerted herself while healing Jinwoo. Things have taken quite the turn, so Jinwoo tells them to leave him behind. Joo-hae needs someone to carry her out of there, and Song-chi's the only one with 2 working feet. Joo-hae thinks she should be the one to be left behind, but Jinwoo reminds her that he promised to take her out to lunch. He gives her his gem so she can buy a meal with it, and promises to get the change when he gets out of the dungeon. Joo-hae refuses to leave him behind, but Song-chi apologizes and knocks her lights out, as they really are out of time. He apologizes to Jinwoo as well, and leaves him behind to take Joo-hae to safety. Jinwoo can at least take solace in knowing that he will be the only one who has to die, and his only regret is that he didn't take out a better life insurance policy. Jinwoo grabs a hold of a sword, as he is determined to at least take one of these statues down with him, and tells them to bring it on. The statues savagely start attacking him, and Jinwoo gets tossed around. As he struggles to survive, Jinwoo thinks about how he has always been the weakest. He has been mocked for it time and time again, but he has always tried as hard as he could. These statues are relentless as they cut off one of his arms, and Jinwoo screams in agony. Jinwoo is furious that it has to end this way since he tried so hard to be stronger. The statues cause him even more pain and thrash him about further. Jinwoo continues to think about how even though he failed to get stronger, he still gave it his all to get this far. Jinwoo motions to yell in anger one more time, but he can't even do that as he is stabbed through the chest. Jinwoo is just barely alive, but rage overwhelms him as he thinks about the first few people that ran from the altar. They said they just couldn't take it anymore, but Jinwoo points out that they all felt that way, and all they were doing was justifying their own selfishness. The supposed gratitude they felt was superficial, and it's always the most selfish people who benefit the most. Rage fills him even more as he thinks about how he has family too, and he wanted to make it home alive just like they did. He screams in pain as these statues torment him even more, and Jinwoo begins to wonder if it's really a good thing that he's the only one that has to die. As Jinwoo's tattered body lies on the altar, he wonders how he could have thought that way and calls himself a hypocrite. Jinwoo tries to breathe and thinks about how he doesn't want to die. The final attack comes crashing down on him, and Jinwoo wishes that he could just have one more chance. The final blue flame goes out, but a mysterious notification pops up, revealing that a secret quest called Courage of the Weak has been completed. The qualifications to be a player have been acquired, and it asks for it to be accepted. The player's heart will stop in a fraction of a second if not accepted, and the button saying yes is pressed. Just then, Jinwoo wakes up in a hospital and is shocked to find that he still has his arm. He remembers how he was dismembered and finds that he still has his leg as well. There is no sign from when he was stabbed in the chest, so he begins to wonder if it was all just a dream. Just then, a guy named Woo arrives, and he explains that he is the manager of the Hunters Association surveillance team. The purple spiky-haired guy is named Kong, but they don't explain why they are there. They do reveal that Jinwoo was unconscious for 3 straight days. Also, Juhei and Songchi are both alive. Songchi did lose his arm, however, so he may have to retire as a hunter. Juhei was seriously traumatized, so she is undergoing psychiatric care. She isn't doing very well though, so Woo doubts she will continue as a hunter. Only 6 people survived the double dungeon they discovered that day. Although a hunter's job is always a very dangerous one, it is rare to see such a tragic event like what happened that day. And one thing is very strange. When another guild arrived at the scene after being alerted by the survivors, all they found was Jinwoo. There were no traces of the temple or the statues the survivors described. The entire situation is incredibly unbelievable. If it weren't for everyone's stories lining up perfectly, suspicion would be cast on the survivors. That isn't the case though, and Woo has a theory. He turns to Jinwoo and asks him if he has had a second awakening. Woo explains that a hunter's power is determined as soon as it is awakened, and it never changes from that point on. However, on extremely rare occasions, a hunter can go through a second awakening. This rare event lets them exceed their previous limits up to A or even S rank. Jinwoo gets real excited to hear this, and Woo reveals that he brought a manometer to test Jinwoo's power. Woo thinks about how if they really ran into an Instica level magic beast like the survivors said they did, then there's no way a low level hunter could survive. There wasn't a single trace of monsters left behind, so this must mean that a strong hunter was present. Woo determines that the most likely explanation is that Jinwoo underwent a second awakening. Jinwoo eagerly wants to hear the results of his mana test, but the results are not good. Woo explains that they have made a mistake and they leave. Jinwoo only managed to get a score of 10, and even E rankers usually get at least 70. A score of 10 basically makes Jinwoo a civilian. Unfortunately, the dungeon has vanished and can't be explored again, so the explanation for how Jinwoo managed to survive remains a mystery. Jinwoo's disappointed by that entire interaction, but just wonders why those guys didn't ask about the thing floating in the air. He wonders if he's the only one that can see it, and he realizes that it's a touch panel. Jinwoo remembers the message he received about becoming a player, but his thought is interrupted by his sister. She was really worried about him, so he just apologizes and asks if she can see the panel. She can't see it, so he asks her if she knows how opening messages in games usually works. Gina thinks he has gone crazy, but Jinwoo reminds her that she used to play games all the time. She gives him the obvious answer, as he simply needs to check his inbox. Just then, a notification reveals that Jinwoo has received a daily quest, which is strength training. After Gina leaves, our boy opens up a whole bunch of these panels. They reveal that the system is designed to assist the development of the player, and failure to comply with the system may result in a penalty. Rewards have also been delivered, but Jinwoo has no clue what any of this means. Jinwoo confirms his daily quest, and it reveals several goals to reach for doing push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and running. However, failure to complete the daily quest will result in a penalty. Jinwoo begins to wonder if it's a joke since he is in the hospital and doesn't have the energy for any of that. Outside, Woo reports to the chairman that Jinwoo did not seem to have a second awakening. The entire incident still has many unanswered questions, so it will be marked as a special case and further evaluated. Elsewhere, Mr. Choi informs Cha-hae that she will be participating in a B-rank raid as an instructor. This raid will serve as a test and practical training for new recruits, and he couldn't think of a better instructor. Cha-hae has doubts about how well she can teach, but Mr. Choi tells her to just fight as usual, and everyone will learn from her example. He goes on to explain that the Hunters Guild is one of the 5 largest guilds in the country. The problem is that they aren't very special when compared internationally. Hunters are not able to increase their ranks individually, but their collective combat ability can be honed. Elsewhere, another gate opens up, and observers wish the hunters would show up already. At the hospital, Jinwoo is fast asleep as the clock strikes midnight. A notification reveals that he didn't complete his quest, and the ground begins to shake. Jinwoo shockingly finds himself in a desert, and he is horrified by a giant caterpillar monster. Another notification reveals that he has received a penalty quest, and the goal is to survive for 4 hours. Back at the hospital, some nurses see that Jinwoo is nowhere to be found. That is because our boy is in some other dimension, running for his life. The giant caterpillar is closing in on him, and he's shocked to see that there are more than one of them. As if that weren't bad enough, Jinwoo still has 2 hours to go. In the hospital, the nurses continue searching for him. Back with Jinwoo, he doesn't have much time left to go, but he is at his limit from all the running. The caterpillar is just about to get him, but the time is up and Jinwoo finds himself back at the hospital. A notification reveals that he successfully completed the penalty quest, but Jinwoo just pukes and passes out. He receives another reward, but our boy is out cold. Sometime later, Jinwoo tells his sister that he is healing well, and he might be able to go home soon. For now though, he gets dressed in his best tracksuit and heads outside. Elsewhere, Joo-hae receives a request to join a raid as a D-rank gate has appeared. The other guilds are not available, but Joo-hae can't get herself to agree to go. However, Joo-hae gets some good news as she is told that Jinwoo has awakened from his coma. Joo-hae nervously goes to visit him, but some nurses point out that he's running again, just like he has been every day since waking up. Outside, Jinwoo thinks about how it's been 4 days since he regained consciousness, and he has learned a few things. First, he is not hallucinating the pop-up windows. Also, when he completes the daily quest, he gets 3 types of rewards. One is full recovery, which he uses now to get rid of his exhaustion from running. The next is ability points. He can distribute the points into whatever ability he chooses. For now, he adds some to strength, and the difference is very noticeable as he can literally tell that he has more strength now. Furthermore, he also has skill and inventory screens. Jinwoo takes a moment to think about how strange his life has just become and points out how similar it is to a game. Jinwoo didn't realize while he was messing with all his screens, but everyone around was just staring at him. Jinwoo's final daily quest reward is a random loot box. Today's random thing is a mysterious key. So far, he has only gotten useless stuff like pens and bandages, so this key is quite a surprise. A notification reveals that the key is for teleporting to an instance dungeon, and it gives a location. Jinwoo has no clue what an instance dungeon is, but based on what's been happening so far, he assumes that it will be an event to help him get stronger. In this world, gates opening is a common thing, so they even have a gate report on the news to keep track of all the recently opened gates. Jinwoo goes to see his mom and has a memory from when he found her unconscious. It was discovered that she has internal sleep disease, which is also known as final rest. It's a disease that came into existence with the appearance of the gates, and there are theories that it is caused by continual exposure to mana. The best modern medicine can do for those affected is life support. Jinwoo worked hard to save money and eventually qualified as a hunter. He informed Gina that he would be able to afford their mother's treatment soon, but she was worried about how dangerous it is to be a hunter. Jinwoo assured her that things would be okay from now on and told her to leave everything to him. However, it would soon become clear that Jinwoo was useless in battle and he would never get a cut of any rewards because of it. Things are different now though, as Jinwoo works hard to train his body. He puts all his ability points into strength and shows his progress by showing an apple who's boss. Jinwoo is determined to get stronger and heads to the location from the key notification. Jinwoo is prepared with everything he needs and determines that he will simply run away if things get dangerous like they did during the raid. When Jinwoo pulls out his key, a keyhole appears out of nowhere. Jinwoo uses the key to unlock it, and some mysterious gate appears. After walking through it, a notification reveals that he has entered the Instance Dungeon. The exit is sealed off behind him, but normal people don't even notice it. It becomes clear that he is in some separate dimension, and Instance Dungeons are not like the regular kind. He assumes that it's more like a red gate, but he doesn't know much about them since he has never been in one. Jinwoo realizes that he won't be able to simply run like he planned, and another notification pops up. It reveals that the only way for him to exit the dungeon is by defeating the boss or by using a teleportation stone. Jinwoo thinks about how he couldn't even beat an E-rank beast before, but now he must clear an entire dungeon by himself. He wonders if he can really do it, but determines that he doesn't have a choice. As he makes his way through, Jinwoo quickly starts to lose confidence. This is for good reason, as a few goblins appear before him. Jinwoo gets a flashback from when he was stabbed, and these goblins attack him. These little monsters are relentless, and they attack wildly, but Jinwoo does well to evade and block them. Jinwoo is eventually overwhelmed, but he gets furious and pierces one of the goblins. Jinwoo gets more confident after defeating one, so he ends up destroying the two right after. Jinwoo can clearly tell that he has gotten stronger, but another beast shockingly appears. This thing instantly shatters his dagger, and Jinwoo is able to sense that this monster is way stronger than the goblins. As this thing stares our boy down, Jinwoo realizes that his legs won't move. He wonders if he is afraid, and is confused since he didn't think he was traumatized from the raid. Jinwoo's legs continue to tremble, and the monster begins its attack. Jinwoo dodges at the last second, but the thing managed to scratch him. Jinwoo has no healer with him, so if he gets injured, he is done for. This monster howls as it smells blood, and it charges right at Jinwoo. Jinwoo dodges with great agility, and he is amazed at how light his body feels. The monster goes in for another attack, but Jinwoo is done letting himself be intimidated. He refuses to just die, and unleashes a powerful punch. Jinwoo is stunned as he realizes just how much of a difference it made to increase his strength ability. It's clear that this monster is still stronger than him, but that doesn't stop Jinwoo from fighting for his life. His attacks aren't working though, so he must avoid its attack, and Jinwoo is at a loss about what he must do now. Jinwoo determines that he can't do this on his own, so he runs away because he has no party or healer. Jinwoo's bag only has water and food in it, so he wishes he had a weapon with magic power. Jinwoo gets a brilliant idea and opens his inventory to pull out a sword. At the very last moment, Jinwoo uses the sword to slice the monster in half. Jinwoo has no clue how the sword got in there, but he does remember Kim saying that he paid 3 million for it. It's the kind of weapon he could never afford, but this is an emergency, so he decides to put it to good use. Jinwoo's pain from the fight is beginning to fade away, but 2 more of these monsters appear. Jinwoo has a weapon now, so he isn't afraid, but he realizes that his sword is stuck. He frantically tries to get it out as the monsters approach him, and he just manages to do it at the last second. Jinwoo gets one of them, but the other shows him why they are called steel-fanged wolves. Jinwoo kicks this thing as he tells it that he just got his sword, and it needs to find something else to chew on. Destroying this monster just leaves the other one, but Jinwoo points out that these things aren't so bad compared to the giant statue. All Jinwoo has to do is posture, and the other wolf runs off scared. When he gets a break, Jinwoo realizes that he reached level 2, a change that never happened when he was just doing his daily quests. He determines that it's because this was real combat, and realizes that all his stats go up by 1 when he levels up. This means he gets 5 points total from real combat, when daily quests only give him 3. It's clear that fighting is more efficient. What he isn't sure of yet though, is how much of a difference 1 point makes. Jinwoo is certain that strength is the most important stat out of all of them. He has it at 32 now, and his body feels much lighter. Jinwoo speculates that the higher his base abilities grow, the more points he will gain. Jinwoo is more motivated than ever, as he realizes that he finally has a way to get stronger. He goes to check the beast for essence stones, but is surprised to see that he gets items instead. Using the same logic that are in games, Jinwoo assumes that this dungeon and magic beasts inside are different from those that are inside gates. He is then shocked to see that his system also has a shop, but his level is too low to buy anything. He can still sell stuff though, so he gets 20 gold from a tooth. Jinwoo isn't sure how much that's really worth, but remembers that he is in an E-rank dungeon, so it shouldn't be much. Jinwoo then thinks about what he must do now. He can't leave until he beats the boss, and he doesn't know where to find a teleportation stone. To make things worse, if he stays too long, he will run out of food. He is certain that he can't beat a boss right now, even if it's just E rank, and wonders if he should try leveling up first. Just then, Jinwoo is shocked as a whole pack of wolves appear. Jinwoo reminds himself not to be afraid, since he already knows what dying feels like. He charges right at the wolves this time and starts slicing them to pieces. Jinwoo promises not to go down easy, but he acknowledges that the wolves won't either. This guy gets a little crazy, as he would feel bad if the fight ended too quickly. Instead, he wants them to fight and make it intense. Jinwoo just wants to get stronger, and will follow all the system's ridiculous rules if that's what it takes. Jinwoo slashes through all the monsters, and notifications pop up everywhere as he does. When he is all done, a final notification reveals that Jinwoo has acquired the title Wolf Assassin. Outside, some citizens walk by a portal, and they wish that the city would do something about it already. Inside the dungeon, Jinwoo is exhausted, and he realizes that his sword won't last much longer. Just then, a notification explains the benefits of being a wolf assassin, as Jinwoo gets a 40% boost to all attributes when fighting animal-type monsters. On top of that, when he checks his inventory, he finds that he now has a bunch of fangs along with a cloak, but most surprisingly, a teleportation stone. Jinwoo considers using it to leave, but hesitates since he may never get the chance to get stronger this easily ever again. He has no way to know what will happen to this dungeon when he leaves, and it might even vanish. It could be like a limited time event like in a game, and it might disappear without a trace. Faced with this tough decision, Jinwoo decides to just move forward. Outside, Juhei receives a call from the Hunters Association, and is told that there was a dungeon break at a nearby gate. There is a shortage of healers, so they need her help, and Juhei feels guilty because it's the gate that she declined to help with earlier. She thinks about how hard Jinwoo worked and decides to help this time. As Jinwoo fights back in the dungeon, he realizes that the higher his level rose, the easier it became to defeat monsters. Also, the color of the text describing them changed. White seems to mean that they are relatively weak. Orange means they're equally strong with him, and red means that they are really strong. The wolves that were red at first are now white, so this means Jinwoo has already become much stronger. However, Jinwoo is certain that there's one monster down a staircase that he cannot fight against at his current level. Jinwoo's perception ability is higher now, so he can feel that something terrifying is down there. The monster down there is so powerful that it's giving him goosebumps. Jinwoo's sword is nearing its end, but he doesn't think he can level up any further in this area. His entire goal is to get stronger, so Jinwoo decides to just go down the stairs. When he reaches the bottom, something attacks him with so much speed that he barely has time to react. Jinwoo's sword is now broken in half, and a giant serpent appears before him. Jinwoo is shocked since even after all the leveling up he did, this monster's name is still orange to him. It's pretty clear that this snake is the boss, and there is no way his sword could penetrate its armored scales. He is sure that fighting without a weapon would be a death sentence for him, so Jinwoo uses his sword when the snake attacks. This giant snake really knows how to throw its weight into its attacks, so Jinwoo will have to find a way around its defenses. This thing's armor is way too thick, however, so all Jinwoo can do is run. The snake uses its tail like a whip, and Jinwoo knows that he is a goner if it lands a clean hit on him, so he does his best to block it. He takes some serious damage, but this creature is relentless. Jinwoo gets tossed around like a rag doll, and even ends up having an entire train launched at him. Jinwoo thought that he had gotten a bit stronger, but it is clearly not enough. The train nearly crushed him, and Jinwoo begins to question something. How much stronger does he have to get before it makes up for a life spent being a laughingstock? A look back shows when Jinwoo was told about how he was being called the weakest hunter of all mankind. Songchi was the one who told him, and he encouraged Jinwoo to prove them wrong. As the snake overwhelms him with its immense power, tossing him into a whole other area, Jinwoo realizes something. He was given that nickname because he was weak, and the same goes for why he was mocked. Jinwoo takes another look back, and thinks about how those that have overwhelming strength go into every situation with an advantage. As for the powerless, there is nothing they can do around the strong, besides quiver in fear and stand around hopelessly. Those that are weak get looked down upon. A person can be knowledgeable, creative, and considerate, but when faced with strength, none of it will save them. Jinwoo determines that kindness won't save him, so he must become strong. Using this new determination, Jinwoo jumps onto the snake. The ferocious monster throws him off, but Jinwoo once again vows to get stronger, and his body begins to glow. Jinwoo dodges the snake once more to strike it with his sword, but he is more determined now. Jinwoo compares how he feels now to the terror he felt back at the raid, and proclaims that this will be easier than that day. Jinwoo manages to use his sword to mount the snake again, but shockingly tosses it aside to hold onto it with his bare hands. Jinwoo acknowledges that he has focused specifically on increasing his strength since he earned this leveling system. He decides to rely on that now and begins to crush the snake's armor scales. The snake does its best to get rid of Jinwoo, but it's too late as Jinwoo is now certain that he can kill the snake. Jinwoo demands that it die, and he uses his own immense physical strength to defeat the serpent. A notification informs Jinwoo that he has leveled up several times, and our boy lets out a laugh. He realizes that he really has gotten stronger, and we see the aftermath of his great battle. Another notification explains that he just defeated the king of the swamp, and he receives a nice looking dagger for his trouble. It's made from the serpent's fangs, and it has double the attack power of Kim's sword. On top of that, it even has paralysis and drain effects. He also receives a poisonous potion that will cause his skin to harden, but it will cause permanent damage to his muscles. The dungeon goes back to being a train station, and Jinwoo realizes that he really just beat the dungeon all by himself. Jinwoo leaves with his broken sword, but notices that no one is around. A soldier tells Jinwoo to find shelter, but he quickly realizes that Jinwoo is a hunter. The soldier apologizes and decides to take Jinwoo to the battle. Monsters are scattered everywhere, so Jinwoo determines that it must have been a dungeon break, and a magic beast made it out of a gate. The soldier reveals that it has mostly been taken care of, but one giant powerful monster is left. Jinwoo notices that his perception ability has improved dramatically, and he can sense where the boss is. We find this giant golem causing chaos, and citizens are terrified that things will get worse. Hunters struggle to fight against it, and the group's leader instructs the healers to focus on keeping their tank healthy. The healers exclaim that they are doing their job, and the tank wonders what the damage dealers are doing. The damage dealers are also doing their best, but the golem's defense is too strong. To make things worse, they are short on hunters who can use magic. Jinwoo expertly analyzes the situation and determines that this group of hunters is a hastily assembled team. This is the reason they don't work together at all. Jinwoo uses more of his perception to find that they're all low rank as well. A D ranks and 2 D ranks. One of those D ranks is a tank, which is part of the reason why they haven't been able to destroy the golem, and this battle has been going on for a while. He analyzes the healers as well, and is shocked to find that Juhei is among them. Juhei is told to help out by one of the hunters, and she reminds her that she's supposed to be a B rank healer. Juhei snaps out of her fear to use a spell, and the hunter tells her to stay focused. Juhei is still haunted by memories of the giant statue, however, so she loses focus. Jinwoo realizes that she is still shaken up, but he doesn't blame her since he is the same. Just then, Jinwoo reminds himself that things have actually changed. This golem is a D rank boss, and it's weaker than the one he just fought. The hunters panic as they are quickly losing the fight, and they realize that they won't be able to win without a higher ranked hunter. Jinwoo prepares an attack and determines that the hunters can win if they just get through the golem's defenses. Jinwoo plans to assist them by using an attack forceful enough to pierce stone. Jinwoo launches his broken sword with so much force that the golem's shield breaks and the hunters attack it. They barely touch it to take it down and can't believe that they managed to do it, but the tank is very skeptical. He points out that none of their attacks were working before and wonders what it was that destroyed the golem's defense. He is certain that it wasn't any of them since they weren't even doing a single bit of damage to the beast. He noticed that something flew at it and finds the sword nearby. He realizes that this must have been it but can't believe it. This was a boss level golem that over 10 hunters couldn't even scratch, so it's hard to believe that it was taken down by an old used up sword. He asks if anyone saw who threw the sword, and the soldier explains that it was the hunter he brought with him. This hunter has gone missing, and the tank stares in utter disbelief. This person had unbelievable power, and he can only wonder how high of a rank this mystery hunter was. Jinwoo has left the area to hide his power, and he says that he didn't think a single attack would be able to do so much damage. Our boy might not even realize his own power though, as he determines that the monster must have been seriously weakened before his attack. The battle is finally over, and Juhei wonders if Jinwoo was the one who helped out. Some time passes and we see that the nurses at the hospital are all gossiping about the E-rank hunter Jinwoo. They talk about how his face is pretty average, but he is seriously shredded. In Jinwoo's room, we see that our boy is working hard doing his daily workout routine. These thirsty nurses won't stop talking about him, and they all can't believe that he has transformed so quickly. One poor nurse falls victim to Jinwoo's riz while walking in on him after a workout, and she can't stop staring at his chiseled physique. Today is the day that Jinwoo gets to leave the hospital, so the desperate nurse asks for his number. Jinwoo hasn't adjusted to the effects of his newfound riz, and assumes that this obviously thirsty nurse just wants to send him test results after he gets released. On the news, we are reunited with the S-rank hunter from the giant ant attack. His name is Beck, and he gives everyone a glimpse into the life of a top hunter. He is one of only 7 S-rank hunters in the entire country, so he explains that he must train a lot every single day when not raiding dungeons. If he makes even the slightest mistake, his comrades could get injured, so he must always remain sharp. Gina notices that Jinwoo is completely shredded now, and has even gotten taller. Jinwoo reminds his absent-minded sister to take an umbrella to school and sends her off. When alone, Jinwoo decides that he can just do his running later, and wonders if these newly developed muscles of his are because of his increased stats. He determines that if he continues at this pace, he could become a huge bodybuilder. Jinwoo then thinks about where he should put some stats that he just received, and we see that he is now level 18. Strength increases the damage he does, but he realizes that if he can't land a hit, then it's pointless. Aside from vitality, perception, and agility, he also has a stat called intellect. He determines that this must have something to do with magic, and wonders if he even needs that. Jinwoo makes his decision, and puts all his points into strength, agility, and perception. Just then, Jinwoo gets a call from his landlord, who tells him that he hasn't paid last month's rent. Luckily for our boy, he has gotten way stronger, and he can now defeat goblins with relative ease. This makes earning money easier, but there is one problem. To make good money, he has to enter higher level gates, but no one's going to let an E-rank hunter into those. Jinwoo considers getting his rank reappraised, but that's too risky. Not only is having a reawakening extremely rare, there has also never been a hunter who could level up and keep getting stronger like he can. Jinwoo decides to hide his powers, at least until he can defend himself and learn more about his abilities. Just then, Jinwoo is shocked by a job listing and runs off. He completes his daily training to receive a reward and meets with a hunter named Hung. Hung apologizes for his guys that recognize Jinwoo as the weakest hunter to ever exist, but Jinwoo lies and says that they aren't wrong. Hung explains that they're going into a C-rank dungeon, but they need a minimum of 8 people to enter. They need Jinwoo to meet this minimum, even if he is just an E-rank. Jinwoo won't be doing any fighting though, so Hung explains that he also won't be getting any of the rewards. They will, however, give him 2 million yuan. Our boy analyzes these guys to find that there are 4 C ranks and 2 sub-D ranks. Jinwoo agrees to join, and Hung explains that his job will be to carry supplies. Having to carry medical supplies means that they must not have a healer, and Hung explains that it's hard for independent parties to retain healers. A party filled with a bunch of tanks and damage dealers worries Jinwoo, but he decides to sign the contract anyway. A 20-year-old D-rank named Yu introduces himself, and Jinwoo determines that this kid must be from a rich family because of his gear. Yu offers to keep Jinwoo safe, and our boy just continues to let everyone think that he is weak. Yu doesn't seem to realize that Jinwoo is a shredded monster, and wonders if he will be okay carrying all the heavy supplies. Jinwoo says he will be fine, and the kid starts rambling about the president who was overseeing this construction site. He fled overseas while embezzling 900 billion yuan and left everyone shocked. They all arrive at the strangely large gate and wonder if it's really just a C-rank dungeon. Yu wonders if they will really be okay, so Jinwoo explains that the size of the gate doesn't matter much. The level of magic power coming from within is the real indicator, and that's what the Hunters Association measures to assign a rank. Anything higher than a B rank is handled by bigger guilds, so this C rank one shouldn't be too difficult. Jinwoo knows all this because he has been a hunter for a while, but he thinks about how he has never actually tackled a C rank dungeon before. They enter the gate and use the light to see, but are shocked to find that there are no magical beasts inside. Most dungeons are covered in glowstones, but this one is pitch black. This darkness reminds Jinwoo of the temple entrance, and he informs Yu about all types of stones. There are essence stones that hunters recover from magic beasts, mana stones that can be mined from dungeons, and glowstones that light up the caves. Jinwoo then silences the talkative kid and reveals that there are magic beasts in this dungeon, they just haven't shown themselves yet. Our genius protagonist thinks about the monsters that lurk in large numbers in the darkness and are attracted to light. He realizes that they must be insect-type monsters and announces it to everyone. Everyone then panics as they realize that they're inside an ant's nest and they can hear the monsters approaching. Jinwoo declares that the beasts are above them, so everyone begins attacking. Hung uses his taunt skill to take most of the aggro, and Jinwoo marvels at their C-rank leader. Yu wants to jump in, but their mage stops him as he has something cooked up. His countdown ends and the mage unleashes a powerful blast. Jinwoo once again analyzes the situation and can tell that these hunters have good teamwork. As for Yu, his gear makes up for his lack of skill. They all seem to be doing well, but Jinwoo can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. He easily destroys one of these ants in secret, and the fight ends soon after. Hung declares their victory, and everyone takes their share of loot except for Jinwoo. Hung does admit that Jinwoo saved them a lot of trouble by detecting the ants, and Jinwoo explains that he just used his instincts. It is brought to Hung's attention that many of the ants seem to have been attacked by something that wasn't using a sword or magic. Hung thinks it may have been some other magic beast, but that would mean that there is something stronger in this dungeon than these ants. Several of the ants look like they were torn to pieces, so Hung wonders what could be big enough to prey on these ants. Yu explains that his father bought him a bunch of gear for his first raid, and Jinwoo is glad to hear that. He isn't sure why just yet, but he tells Yu that they need to be very careful. Elsewhere, some dude working out is startled by a loud sound of destruction. He is told to calm down, however, as it's not something out of the ordinary. It's just their guildmaster doing his training, and we see that it's Beck. This dude is crazy strong, so the kid is shocked to see that he blew through a giant stone with just one strike. Beck is totally unfazed and explains that it wasn't even good enough for a warm-up. In the dungeon, Yu again worries about Jinwoo carrying everything. Jinwoo points out that he doesn't mind, since getting paid not to fight is a good deal. Jinwoo, however, thinks to himself and wonders if it might actually be too good of a deal. Jinwoo does some more deducing and thinks about how this group is a battle-tested party without a healer. On top of that, they needed extra members to fill the party minimum quota. The group becomes concerned since they have covered a ton of distance in the dungeon, but they haven't encountered a single healthy beast. The dungeon boss is surely still alive, however, since the gate would have closed if it wasn't. They find a bunch of webs and determine that the boss's chamber must be through the tunnel. Going through the tunnel leads them to find a shocking amount of mana crystals. They are not worth as much as essence stones, but there's at least 1 billion worth of crystals there. One hunter remarks that even Hung's brother would be jealous of this find, but he's told not to mention him. Hung has some kind of hidden motive as he thinks about how his brother can't always be the right one. He refuses to defer to his brother, and he plans to use this gigantic haul to grow his strike team. Yu takes a look at Jinwoo's contract since he is good with legal stuff and finds something. He points out to Hung that the contract only states that Jinwoo doesn't get a share of the battle drops. Mana crystals aren't battle drops, so this means they must split their findings 8 ways instead of 7. Hung happily agrees, but points out that the dungeon boss is nearby. Defeating the boss will close the gate, so they will have to mine and haul the mana crystals out before fighting the spider boss. Luckily, the spider is asleep, but Hung yells at one of the hunters for not bringing the transport equipment. Hung tells Yu and Jinwoo to stay put while they go get it, and assures them that the spider won't wake up unless something bothers it. Hung points out how they are both new to C-rank dungeons, and tells them to just trust his decision. He also needs to discuss some stuff with his team, so he decides that they will take a break as well. When they leave, Jinwoo analyzes the situation again. He thinks that it's strange that they didn't have any regulars to call up to help them meet their quota. At a far enough distance, we see just how evil Hung is, as he tells one of his men to seal off the boss chamber. He does, and Yu realizes that they were betrayed. This is exactly what Jinwoo was worried about, and he remembers how Song-chi warned him that there are some real crooks in their line of work. Raiding dungeons is pretty dangerous, and accidents happen frequently. This creates an environment where crimes could be committed, and they would never come to light. There are no security cameras in dungeons, so as long as there are no survivors, there will never be any evidence. Yu is furious that these guys would sacrifice them just for some mana crystals, and he begins to regret mentioning the contract. Jinwoo knows better though, since they were all ready to kill them at any moment if they made the wrong move. Their biggest concern now is the boss that just woke up, and Yu tells Jinwoo to stay back. Jinwoo sees an exit, but he determines that Hung already knows about it. The spider is definitely awake now, and Jinwoo thinks about how the C-rank beast is on a whole different level. Jinwoo quickly comes to his senses though, and takes that back. He takes the lead by telling Yu to stand back as he plans to fight this thing. Jinwoo then summons his weapon and declares that he will beat it. When Hung's group leaves the dungeon, the mage wonders why they didn't just kill the two newbies themselves. Hung explains that they couldn't risk waking up the spider since they wouldn't be able to harvest the mana crystals with it awake. He assures him that this plan will work though, since some guy with no experience and the weakest hunter to ever exist have no chance at surviving against the spider. The plan is to wait for the spider to eat them and fall asleep again. They won't be able to blast their way in since it will wake the spider, but Hung knows about the small path above the cave. The worst case scenario is that the spider doesn't fall asleep after eating the newbies. If their group isn't able to retrieve the mana crystals, then they will at least take Yu's equipment, which is worth hundreds of millions. Hung and the mage both agree that they wouldn't be able to fight the spider themselves, and Hung points out that it should not be underestimated. It's an incredibly dangerous boss, and it's only a matter of time before the newbies are killed. Inside the dungeon, Yu tries to convince Jinwoo not to fight the boss, since only a B-rank hunter would be able to beat a C-rank dungeon boss alone. Even an elite level C-rank wouldn't be able to do it, so Yu thinks they should try to find a way out instead. Jinwoo thinks about how he is right. Even though Jinwoo has had a second awakening and leveled up, he still considers himself very weak. The Venom and Golem bosses were both D ranks, so this spider is worlds apart from them. Jinwoo can't really understand why, but he doesn't feel any pressure right now. He realizes that he must have just become strong enough to no longer fear C-rank bosses. He is level 18 and declares that he has a chance of defeating it. After attacking the snake, Jinwoo declares that the real hunt begins now. Elsewhere, President of the Hunters Association named Go is exhausted from attending a ton of meetings. His driver offers to spar against him to help him feel better, and Go accepts as he can't refuse when a young person seeks his guidance. Back in the dungeon, Jinwoo finds that the spider skin is incredibly strong. Its attacks are surprisingly powerful, and if Jinwoo gets hit even once, he will surely die. Yu watches Jinwoo's movements closely, and instantly realizes that this is not the way an E-rank hunter moves. He wonders who Jinwoo really is, and questions if he is a false ranker. There are very few hunters who can control their magic power well enough to deliberately get a lower ranking. The ones who do this are called false rankers, and they are usually psychopaths who take pleasure in killing. Yu regrets coming to the dungeon, and Jinwoo determines that he can't deal any damage to the spider's tough hide. Jinwoo's fatigue is increasing rapidly, so he needs to end the fight soon. His dagger has paralysis and drain abilities, so he determines that they will be his key to victory. Jinwoo must use them on the spider's weak spot, but he's shocked when the spider reveals that it has an acid attack. Jinwoo has to close the distance, so he decides to use a new skill called Dash. He uses it to land an attack on the spider's face, but his dagger's debuffs get cancelled out. Jinwoo is never one to give up, so he decides to strike it as many times as he can. Jinwoo pushes himself to keep going faster and faster, but his fatigue causes him to get struck by the spider. Jinwoo is about to get crushed, but he remembers that he still has a reward left for completing his daily quest, so he uses the reward that allows him to fully recover. Yu yells in terror as he thinks Jinwoo has been killed, but our boy is on the move again. He lands another attack, but this time he's able to pierce through one of the spider's eyes, and his dagger's debuffs are applied. Jinwoo doesn't waste this opportunity and stabs the spider several more times, applying the debuffs as well. The spider eventually succumbs to all the attacks, and a notification reveals that Jinwoo has just defeated the master of the dungeon. Jinwoo knows how lucky he was that he didn't have time to choose a reward before entering the dungeon, since he would surely be dead right now. Yu is understandably shocked to see that Jinwoo just defeated a dungeon boss by himself, and he is now more certain than ever that Jinwoo is a false ranker. Jinwoo gets a gem from the spider, and Yu approaches him, offering to carry the supplies from now on. Yu really idolizes Jinwoo now, as he tells him to take a rest while he mines the mana crystals. Just then, Hung and his group arrive, and they're surprised to see that the newbies survived. In a training room, Go shows Wu just how skilled he is, as he easily overpowers him, seemingly without even trying at all. Go thanks Wu since he feels much better now, and Wu is amazed that the president doesn't seem rusty at all. Go explains that he isn't as strong as he used to be, but he can tell that Wu has trained hard. Wu acknowledges that training cannot increase a hunter's level, but it can improve their skills. Go points out that a hunter's physical and mental strength are very important, especially in dungeons where you will find the worst kind of people. Back in the dungeon, Hung's group determines that the newbies were only able to survive because this spider must have been big and stupid. They mock the spider for losing to low-level hunters, and Hung explains that he has already decided on what their next move is. He reveals to Yu that he knows he comes from a wealthy family, but Yu doesn't see why that matters. Hung then tells him that he will only give him one chance and instructs Yu to kill Jinwoo. Hung explains that they usually kill the people they use to fill their party so they can keep all the spoils themselves. However, he will spare Yu if he agrees to become their accomplice. If he refuses though, they will just kill them both. Hung thinks about how Yu might be dangerous because his gear might have special powers that made him strong enough to defeat the spider. He would rather not find out, so he wants to pin him against the weak Jinwoo. Hung is glad when Yu makes his way towards Jinwoo, but is then shocked when Yu ends up taking Jinwoo's side. This evil group decides to just end their lives, and Hung wonders if the newbies ever had to kill any humans before. Just then, Jinwoo receives an urgent quest, and it shockingly requires that he beat the 6 enemies before him. The group decides to kill the one they think is the weaker of the two, so the mage attacks Jinwoo. Yu is worried about his new friend, and terrified when he sees the condition Jinwoo is in. Elsewhere, a member of the group Chahae was instructed to teach, talks about how amazing she is. They struggled with an A-rank beast, but she defeated it in a flash. These girls are glad to be in 2 of the top guilds, since there are plenty of unsavory rumors about other squads. One example of this are strike teams with suspiciously high fatality rates. Back in the dungeon, Hung says it's all over, and declares that Jinwoo is dead. Jinwoo condemns himself for forgetting, and reminds himself that he works in a world where survival of the fittest is the reality. This is a world filled with violence, deception, and betrayal. He fills with rage for forgetting this fact, and realizes that he forgot because he had become numb to it. Jinwoo has calmed down, and thinks about how he fell victim to his own carelessness and overconfidence. This level system is now urging him to kill, so Jinwoo wonders if it needs to keep him alive for some reason. He determines that this system isn't just charity, and it clearly wants him alive. That isn't all though, as it seems to also want him to be strong. Jinwoo declares that if this system wants to use him, then he will just use it too. He tells the group that they reminded him how the weak are the ones that lose their lives in the dungeon. They're glad to hear that the weakest hunter knows how it works, but Jinwoo points out that this means they should be prepared for when this rule doesn't go their way. One of them doesn't like it when Jinwoo calls them the prey, but Jinwoo instantly shows them what he means. Everyone is shocked to see this dude have his head sliced off, and Jinwoo declares that that's 1 down as a notification updates the kill count. Jinwoo realizes that he just killed someone, but acknowledges that he would have died if he hadn't. He can't back down now, as only the strong get to survive. The group snaps out of their shock after just witnessing an E rank kill one of their D ranks, and they attack Jinwoo. It's useless though, as Jinwoo just starts stabbing them one by one. His debuffs take effect, and he takes the lives of 2 more. The archer is next to fall victim to Jinwoo's wrath, and the mage follows soon after. That only leaves 1 left, and Yu is shocked since Jinwoo seems much stronger than when he fought the dungeon boss. Hung realizes that Jinwoo was hiding his power this entire time, but warns him that he's nothing like the other C ranks. Hung reinforces his body, and thinks about how he is certain that Jinwoo is tired after fighting a boss and 5 hunters. On top of that, Hung has made his body as strong as steel, so there's no way Jinwoo's dagger will be able to pierce him. Hung begins his attack, but our boy shocks him with his speed. Jinwoo calmly acknowledges how strong Hung is, but reveals that he has some bad news for him. Jinwoo absolutely crushes him, and reveals that he has been leveling up this entire time. Hung realizes that Jinwoo is definitely not an E rank, and offers to pay him double. Jinwoo points out that Hung tried to kill him 3 times, and scoffs at how he now wants mercy. Hung tries to say that Jinwoo won't get away with this, but Jinwoo reminds him that he was the one that said, whatever happens in a dungeon never gets out. Hung makes one last effort to threaten him, but Jinwoo just ends his life. Jinwoo's quest is complete, but the dungeon begins to collapse since the boss was defeated. When they get out, they report that they were the only ones to survive the fight against the spider. The official is suspicious since they were the lowest level members, but she gets distracted by Yu's gear. Jinwoo can't believe he was rewarded for what he just did, and notices that he received a murderous intent skill. It puts enemies in a state of panic, and cuts all their abilities in half. The simple-minded official determines that Yu survived because of his gear, and assumes that the E-rank Jinwoo just hid somewhere. Yu praises Jinwoo on a job well done, and it begins to rain. Yu wonders if something is wrong, but the very calm Jinwoo explains that he's just glad that he gave his sister an umbrella. Elsewhere, Woo is told about the incident where 6 hunters died and only 2 level hunters survived. It's pretty common for hunters to flee dungeons when they are outmatched, but he is surprised to hear that the surviving hunters defeated the dungeon boss before they left. Woo interrupts this guy before he can explain further, but he is then shocked when he is told that one of the survivors was Jinwoo. Woo sees that this involves the infamous Hung, which makes it clear why this report was brought to him. Jinwoo returns home and informs his sister that he will be able to take care of their mother's hospital bills for a while. Gina assumes that he received a big payday from his last raid, but she points out how he doesn't seem injured at all. She concludes that he must have had a strong team and they made it easy to defeat the bad guys. Jinwoo concedes that it really was easy. Not just how much stronger he was than them, but when it came time to end their lives, he didn't hesitate at all. The old him would have looked for a way to escape, but the new Jinwoo was angry at them for thinking that they even had a chance against him. He wonders if leveling up has made him more bold, but reminds himself that they were humans, not dungeon monsters. Gina snaps him out of it, and he reminds himself why he's getting stronger. It's so he can stay alive and support his family, so he would do what he did in that dungeon again if he had to. Just then, a harmful substance is detected in his body, and he realizes that it's what he's drinking. Jinwoo continues drinking, but he realizes that he isn't getting drunk at all. Just then, a notification reveals a reward he received from the double dungeon. It disables toxic and abnormal conditions and gives him improved regenerative abilities. He was too busy to check his rewards from that day, but it explains why he regrew his arm. Later, Jinwoo meets with Yu, who thanks him for saving his life. Jinwoo doesn't think this kid owes him anything though, since Yu hasn't told anyone about what really happened in that dungeon. Yu reveals that he's putting together a strike team, but Jinwoo rejects him before he can even ask him to join. Yu just needs him for 19 raids and begs Jinwoo to hear him out. Yu wants to become a guild master, but this requires that he have at least 20 raids worth of experience. Yu's father wants to make a guild for his construction company, and Yu wants to help in any way he can. Dungeons are incredibly dangerous, but the treasures they hold make them worth the risk. It's not just the mana crystals and essence stones, everything in a dungeon has value. Jinwoo acknowledges that having hunters raid dungeons for a company is a good business model. Yu's father wants an S-rank hunter as guild master, but this surprises Jinwoo since there are only 7 S-rank hunters in the entire country. To make things worse, the only S-rank not already affiliated with the guild is Min, and he has retired. This must mean that Yu's father plans to take an S-rank from another guild, but Jin warns against that, since he will just be making enemies of the guild he takes them from. Yu takes a different approach to convince Jinwoo, and points out that he will need help with raids, especially if he wants to do them while hiding his power. This works out perfectly for Yu, since it would be more convincing to his father if Yu succeeded while being teamed up with a low-rank hunter like Jinwoo is pretending to be. Yu shows Jinwoo the building they were planning to use as the guild headquarters, and explains that it's worth 30 billion yuan. This is an incredible amount of money, and it's what Yu is offering to give Jinwoo in exchange for helping complete 19 raids. Jinwoo would have jumped at this opportunity in the past, but things have changed since he became the only person that can level up. Jinwoo is certain that he can reach S rank by the way things are going, or perhaps even higher. There are still too many unknowns with his power, and it would be risky to work with someone, so Jinwoo declines the offer. Yu makes one last effort by promising to take Jinwoo's secret to the grave, but Jinwoo scares him with one look and leaves. Elsewhere, Hung's younger brother Wong is furious about his brother's death, and demands that he get information on the 2 survivors. His assistant Laura is shocked when he wants to know what will happen if he kills someone in another country, but she tells him anyway. If they have a treaty with the country, then he would have a trial there, but if not, then he would be sent home for prosecution. Wong wants to leave immediately, but Laura reminds him that he is far too busy, so he plans it for later. He takes another look at the survivors, and just hopes that they survive long enough for him to eliminate them. The next day, Jinwoo goes for a jog with his sister. She can't come up with any ideas for what she would do with 30 billion yuan, since it's too unrealistic. When alone, Jinwoo realizes that his system counter keeps counting even after reaching the goal. Gina finally catches up to him, but he has already decided to test how far the counter will go, and he runs again. He finds that it cuts off at double the goal, and after testing all of the tasks, the daily quest becomes a secret one. The reward for this has some random loot boxes, but one is blessed and one is cursed. Jinwoo decides to try the blessed one for today, and finds that he has received another key. This is the key to the Demon King's castle, but its acquisition level is S. More surprisingly though, the ingredients for something called the Elixir of Life can be found inside. Jinwoo couldn't have asked for anything more perfect, since the Elixir of Life can cure all illnesses. Jinwoo goes to see his sick mother, and determines that he has no other choice. Jinwoo goes to the location, and uses the key to open the gate. He already knows that this will be an S-rank dungeon, which means it will be on par with Jeju Island. Jinwoo wonders if he can handle this danger, but a large gate appears before him, and he goes in anyway. Inside, flames cover everything, and Jinwoo admits to being afraid. However, he can always use his teleportation stone if things get bad. Just then, a giant monster appears before him. Jinwoo has already decided that he needs to get stronger, and vows not to die in the dungeon. This monster has a red name, which means it's much stronger than him, but Jinwoo has the benefits of the Wolf Assassin title. Jinwoo uses dash to quickly close the gap, and he attacks the beast several times. He hardly does any damage though, and that is even with the bonus effects. Jinwoo activates his Murderous Intent skill, but the debuff gets cancelled out. Jinwoo tries to apply his other debuffs with his dagger, but those get cancelled out as well. This monster is absolutely ferocious as it tears into Jinwoo, and he screams in agony. Jinwoo has lost his arm, and his health is dropping as the beast crushes him. He has already lost a third of his life, but things get worse as the beast uses its 3-minute rage skill to boost all its abilities by 100%. The monster's attacks are too fast to dodge, so Jinwoo is forced to use his full recovery reward to regrow his arm. Just when Jinwoo thinks he has managed to harm the beast, he finds that he is wrong, and just continues to get ragdolled. Jinwoo's HP drops even further as he gets stomped on, but he buys himself some time by kicking dirt at the beast. Jinwoo's system keeps throwing warnings at him, making it even more clear that it doesn't want him to die. The more this keeps happening, the more Jinwoo realizes that this is not a normal reawakening. Jinwoo realizes that things are getting far too dangerous, so he decides to use the teleportation stone. Cerberus comes out of nowhere though, and knocks it out of his hand. Jinwoo is in real trouble now, since he will be done after a few more hits. Jinwoo racks his brain to think of a solution, and just now remembers that he has a shop in his system. He purchases 3 healing potions, but they only heal 100 health points each. The poison Jinwoo received from fighting the snake pops up in front of him, and he decides that he has no other choice but to try it. Jinwoo drinks the poison, so the system detects it as a harmful substance and detoxifies it. This is a complete success, as Jinwoo's muscles aren't damaged, and he now takes 20% less physical damage. Cerberus shows itself again, and lands a devastating attack on Jinwoo. Jinwoo proclaims that he can still move though, and we see that the 3-minute timer on the monster's rage skill is over. The effects wear off, so the damage Jinwoo did to its eye finally begins to hurt the beast. Jinwoo takes advantage by landing several attacks, and he seems to finally be doing damage. The beast nearly eats him alive, but Jinwoo just manages to stop it. He goes airborne, and the powerful monster once again slams him into the ground. Jinwoo finds himself in a terrible spot once again, as he has nearly lost all his health, and Cerberus is crushing him between his teeth. Jinwoo still finds the strength inside himself to fight back, and stabs the beast several times, even as it thrashes him around. Jinwoo keeps attacking, and uses all his strength on one final attack. This proves to be the final blow, as Cerberus comes crashing down, and a notification reveals that Jinwoo has just defeated Hell's Gatekeeper. Jinwoo levels up several times, and his wounds are healed. Eliminating the Gatekeeper gives Jinwoo the key to the demon's castle. Jinwoo assumes that it is what Cerberus was protecting, but he is then surprised by a mysterious notification. It's the formula for the Elixir of Life, and it requires 3 ingredients that can be found in the castle. His fight against Cerberus has helped him gauge his current strength, so Jinwoo realizes something. If he were to go into the demon's castle now, he would surely die. Jinwoo concludes that he can't do it now, but he promises to return soon. Thanks for watching my recap. Subscribe and sign up to my free newsletter if you want to show some support to the channel. Link is in the description.